Welcome back to the Gyrl podcast. I'm Kyra. I'm excited to welcome Isabella to the show. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Kyra.
Yes. Well, why don't we get started by having you tell the audience listening or watching who you are and what you do?
Yeah, not a problem. Let's give you the short story. So I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner. I have a private practice up in Canada here. And what I've been doing for the past few years is just helping people from all over the world with a few different issues, and especially reversing infertility, reversing painful periods. And honestly, the range is quite big. Another really popular thing that almost everyone asks for when they work with me is how to lose weight for the last time and that sort of thing. But the range of functional medicine is quite wide. And today, I hope that we get to talk about a population of clients of mine that maybe they're like 30 or 40% of the people I see. And these people are women who are struggling with one sort of reproductive ailment or another, anything from painful periods to crazy menopause, which is not normal either, by the way. And honestly, almost everything in between, from PCOS to endometriosis. And after a few years of working with them in my practice, I just realized that there are a few things that people don't know, especially women, about reproductive health. And one of them is periods are not supposed to be painful, guys. So that's a great start. And neither is menopause supposed to be crazy. And I hope we talk about that and, show them how to fix it, because it's really, really simple.
Yeah. Well, we're going to start with the painful periods first, because that is something that many women have dealt with. I've personally dealt with that in my lifetime. And I think it's really important to start out to say, like, what does a normal period, what is it supposed to feel like?
Oh my goodness, I'm so glad you started there. Oh yeah, I'll give you the total description, but maybe even before that, let's just say one thing. So we had arthritis, and they're given fancy diagnostic name, right? But when it comes to women and periods, that is not given such a name. And yet at the same time, all of us act like it's completely normal to have this kind of chronic pain. And so just keep that in mind. So these sorts of things are not normal. Now, let's go back to your question of what's a normal period actually supposed to feel like. And actually, I'd love to hear when I go through it. I wonder how much of it resonates with you, because you said you also dealt with painful periods. So, well, I like to call this list sort of the list of like the blessed, because when you because they're the cursed people among women. We call each other, either we're cursed with painful periods or we're like blessed with, like, I have no idea what most people go through. And this is sort of the list of like the blessed. And this was me before I realized how awful it could be. So first of all, big picture, you have a regular and predictable period. So we're not even talking about pain anymore yet, I mean. And now when it comes to fatigue, what is more normal and healthy is a noticeable amount of fatigue that only lasts about a day, maybe half a day. Now, what about bleeding? So when you have a lot of heavy bleeding, that's not what you want to see. What you want to see is maybe 1 or 2 days of really heavy bleeding. And it's not even really, really heavy. It's just there's the most of it, right? And then it becomes like a medium on day 2, and then quickly slows down after that. That's kind of the normal thing. And so that's day 1, maybe day 2. And then day 3, well, except everything from day 1, you should be feeling a pretty easy and smooth, medium-sized flow. And just in general, pain, discomfort, fatigue really should be easing off, even on day 2. And of course, 3rd, 4th, 5th day, your energy, your motivation should be picking up, just as, your period is just fading off. And I mean, it's incredible, the stories I hear and what I've been through too about what people think is normal. And that's like things that a period that's unpredictable, always changing in length month to month, 3 or more days of really heavy bleeding. And something in particular I like to point out is big blood clots. So if you ever take a look at your flow actually and collect it, like in a Diva cup or something, notice if there's any clots a lot of big clots is not really what we want to be seeing here. We want to see a lot smaller, maybe medium sized is okay once in a while, but big ones, you're not really supposed to see that. And some of us, we struggled with like many days of heavy bleeding, and sometimes like throughout the month, random spots too. And at that point, we're dealing with something more serious. Maybe we're in the endometriosis realm or PCOS realm, but well, more endometriosis. But if you just go back to normal period versus really unhealthy periods, you also have, oh yeah, this one, I almost forgot, the famous referred back pain, really common and not normal. Ladies, definitely something to pay attention to. And sometimes I also see massive digestive shifts with the ladies I work with, and also that's not supposed to be happening. Slight shifts could happen, but it's not super drastic, like complete diarrhea, for example. That should not be happening to you. And of course, we have just the painfulness of the cramps. If you don't take any painful medication, and we'll talk about hopefully like the consequences of taking over-the-counter pain relievers. But if you don't take them already, which is great, but you're having the kind of pain where when you lie down, like there's no comfortable position. Like you cannot, if you're on your back, your stomach pulls in and you're like inhale. And then if you're on one side, it's like, oh, and then the other side, no. And then when you're on your stomach, of course, the pressure is too much. It's just all of that. I'm so happy to say that that is not what you're meant to feel every single month. I hope that was descriptive enough. And
I think that was great, because like listening to the things, right, how it's supposed to be, right? And I was like, no. But then on the bad side, I was like, oh yeah, I went through, like I had all those, like I mentally checked a lot of those things that I had at a certain time. And so Isabella, let's talk about like some of the core reasoning. So somebody might be saying, a lot of times what's associated with our periods, right? The painful cramps and then mood swings. Just like, oh man, I just don't even feel like myself. What's the core reason behind that?
Thanks for bringing that up too, because that's a whole other category. PMS stuff, menstrual syndrome, all that stuff. Again, there's a whole list of things that's not normal versus okay and healthy. One of the things you mentioned in particular was basically feeling like a different person sometimes. It's kind of frightening. And it ranges anywhere from the depths of depression to intense anger, anywhere on that scale. And it's very real. And so why would that happen? I love that question. All of that is, in my world, it's a consequence of something I call hormonal imbalances that is due to either one of these three things. It's usually all these three things. First one is chronic malnourishment. We'll go into it. Second, absolutely an overloaded detoxification system. And that those include the systems that deal with your stress, include your sleep, and it also includes just how your body and your liver deals with toxins in the environment. Also the quality of your female hygiene products, really big one. Also whether or not you're taking birth control, like huge. And then the last one I'd say is something it's a big category I call mind. And those are all the things that from the mind, you can also affect the body, and vice versa. The body affects the mind, and like the personality shift and all that sort of stuff. And that's a whole other category in itself. But I'd first say, whenever you're dealing with something as drastic as you're feeling different, you're a different person, I just want to let you know that the good news is that's not supposed to happen. And the reason it's happening, and most often in my experience, it's because the woman in front of me is usually malnourished and she doesn't know it. And it's just a part of this big diet culture we have in general. And also the fact that most modern people aren't taught how to properly nourish themselves, especially after they leave home, right? From mom and dad. Now, if we go back to the nourishment and like over dieting and that sort of thing, and you can diet, by the way, to lose weight without malnourishing yourself, by the way, but like not a lot of people know how to do that. But for example, let's say, so there are hormones in our body that make us feel good, make us feel hopeful and optimistic, and like who you are. Kira is this person, and like she is optimistic, energetic, and loving, and etc. And all that is actually consequences of a bunch of hormones in the background that allow you to feel that. Now, all those hormones in the background cannot be made if your body doesn't have the resources to produce them. It's that simple. And when you are malnourished, and I don't mean calorically malnourished, I mean nutritionally, your micronutrients, which is minerals and vitamins and that sort of thing. Your body will take the scarce resources you give it and prioritize. And I promise you that it will not prioritize how good you feel. Like, that's like the last thing. First thing it will do is like make sure your brain is just online enough so that you can find food. And then make sure you're breathing, your lungs are working, and your cardiovascular system is pumping so that you can still walk and find food. Okay, and then the last thing is like you have basic energy for the entire musculature of your system to go out and find food. It's not like, it's very, very predictable. And one of the first things to go, and when you work in functional medicine, you understand that one of the first signs of a person who is malnourished or not feeding themselves optimally is that their reproductive functions start either declining or dysfunctioning. And one of the prime markers of that is, for women in particular, is a healthy period, a healthy libido. And for the guys as well, because most of you guys probably have a guy in your life, if they are not getting that morning kickstand anymore, like that's actually a sign that there is something in an imbalance in their hormonal system, either due to a deficiency or overtoxicity. And that is something to pay attention to. That is like, if that system goes, then you are doing something, or something is happening to you right now that is overwhelming your system. And yeah, it's time to make some changes.
Interesting. I like these nuggets.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this is good. I mean, because I think like these are things like people don't think about, right? When you don't think about like, I don't know, like you said, like it's when people are PMSing and it's like, oh, well, my mood's shifting, but nobody like really digs into the why. You know, we just always just tie it to PMS. Like that's always the answer. It's like, oh yeah,
who you
so
are.
sad. It's just, it's that time. Like it's that time of the month. That's basically what is always said in that case.
That's right.
And I think like this is really good information to like think about, like it doesn't have to be this way. And I think that's the important takeaway as we go through this conversation, is that for those listening or watching, it doesn't have to be this way. Because I think for so long we said like I had terrible periods for like the bulk of my adult life. I mean, they would be like 7-day periods and they would be heavy for like the only light day I had was like the first day. And then after that, like 2 through 5 was like terrible, like to a point to where, sorry everybody listening, but we're just having this conversation. So TMI, but like, I mean, I was like, all the super, like whatever the pads that are like the super ones for overnight. Like I was wearing those during the day and I was having all like 3 of those like every day because it was, And then like always the fear of like getting up and leaving something behind. Like,
oh God.
Having to get up like all the time. Like, I mean, it was almost to a point of like, it crippled me from like actually doing anything during that week. Like, you know, like I would be like, nope, I can't go I can't hang out. I can't go out. I can't do anything. We're going to be in the house wrapped up in a blanket, you know? So I think like just paying attention to the signs and just also not just falling back on like, oh, that's just how it's supposed to be. Because like Isabella is saying here, that's not how it's supposed to be.
I just really appreciate that you were willing to share the details of that, because I can't tell you how often I've heard that and I've been like, I wish they knew. But now you guys, you're hearing it even from Kira herself. Like this is not, and it's very, very common. And I'm curious, from your journey, like what was it that shifted, do you think?
So there were quite a few things. So probably back in 2017, 2018, we just like, I had fibroids. And so I had fibroids, I had very low iron. I was critically low on iron. So at the time I did have surgery. I had a myomectomy.
Yep.
And so like they pulled out probably like almost 30 fibroids. Of like ranging, like probably the largest one being about this big, like a baseball. And they were just like, you know, different ranges. So of course, with anything, at the time. Now knowing what I know, all right, they're going to come back. And so they came back. And then probably in the last 2 to 3 years, I started experience, like it was just back, like heavy periods. My iron was so low that I had to start going to get like iron injections. Like I was going once a week to get iron. And then last year I started a process, like I went to the gynecologist and she said, look, you know, you can either get a hysterectomy.
Oh boy.
And I was like, no. And I was like, because we're just friends here, everyone, just talking, just sharing. Because there was something very like final about, even though like I don't, like my husband and I, we don't have children, there's something very final about someone taking away even the possibility. And so I was like, I don't want to do that. So then we looked at, she recommended maybe I have a consult with someone about uterine fibroid embolization. So I went through that process and did all their like tests and everything and talked to the doctors. And we looked at my scans and saw that, they were back, like they were there again. And so pretty much through this process, it basically shrinks them to a point to where they like, eventually the blood cuts off and then they die essentially. But it wasn't like going through surgery and having, because I was like, I don't think I could do a major surgery again. Because also too, like also going through a myomectomy is essentially like having a cesarean. It's having a baby without bringing a baby home. And I think there's something very like depressing in that. When I was going through it, I was just like trying to find relief. But like as the time went on, and thank God for therapy because you get to have these conversations. But I was like, I literally like went through the same process as a pregnant person, but I came home with nothing for like 6 weeks, getting and recovering like a woman who had a baby. So then last December, I went through the process of the UFE and went through that process, which is, it's painful, not as painful as like surgery, but still painful nonetheless. And I will say like this year, I've seen a change in the periods. They are shorter now. They're not as heavy. And I just really got like my fingers crossed that like, but I also tried to make different choices as well for myself, like health wise, as far as like the foods that I'm eating, because I know all these things play a part. If you have something fibroids, but there are also, you might have them, but there are also things that nutritionally we could be doing better, taking better care of ourselves. Like you've mentioned from our nutritional, like how we feed and nourish our bodies. So I've made a lot of changes in just my holistic health this year. And so I have seen changes. I'm not as tired anymore because like when my iron was super low, like I was tired every day. And so
yes, that's who knows?
And so I think like just being able to find ways to get to a healthier state without like having to even go through like the surgeries or the procedures. If you all listening, you can take something from what Isabella's telling us today and how we can maybe correct those things with just different approach. Like I would say every day, do that every day versus procedures. I mean, because you're still setting yourself, you still are going to feel pain. You're still your body's still going to like go through like a shock. Like it changes your body forever when you have these surgeries and these procedures.
It really, really, really does. And in my profession, we call it the knife. It's the option of the knife. And even 2,000 years ago, the first origins of Western medicine, like the first guy, he was like, the knife should be like the last option. You should always first look at the diet and the lifestyle first, which is just incredible that they knew that so long ago. But I have heard so many stories like Gyrl's, and I just want you guys all to know that she went through a type of surgery that is famously, they won't always tell you this before the surgery, but they have like easily 60% of people get all the symptoms back within 2 or 3 years, easily 60. And it's like across the board. It's also for surgeries for endometriosis, and which is like when cells grow in the wrong places, like the uterine lining, and it's very, very painful. And again, good news, guys, is that you don't have to go for the knife option. You don't need these surgeries. I've had people get rid of their fibroids or any other sort of growth. They've just receded on their own because the body knows how to bring you to homeostasis when we fix their nourishment, which it sounds like Kira's already working on, which is awesome. And that absolutely does help. And yeah, iron. Iron is a really good one. But yeah, I would not recommend like the shots just because of absorption, but still, everybody's got to start somewhere. And then we also have, well, the detoxification element. And that part is really where you really get things moving. Something about detoxification that I like to share with people is that it's so important to your health because it's like, imagine yourself living in your home where the only rule is you can't take out any trash for a year.
No, that's disgusting.
Yeah. No kidding. And yet our systems of detoxifications are so overloaded today and from things we don't even know that it's exactly what's going on in every single cell in your body. And as you can imagine, after a year of not being able to take your trash out, it takes a lot of energy to scrub down your place and get rid of all of that trash. So all that energy, if it goes into cleaning, it does not go into all the other things we love, like feeling good, being creative, and like just having a great month every month. And so I recommend instead you take care of your detoxification system day by day with really simple practices. And honestly, the best way to begin is just to make sure you drink enough water every day. And I mean mineralized, nice quality water. Unfortunately, a lot of tap water today is really, really full of things you wouldn't want to drink. And unfortunately, that's just how it is. So most people, I recommend that they filter their water. But after that point, make sure you're getting at least a good liter to a liter and a half. The thing about water recommendations is that it's so individualized between people. Because everybody's a different size, everybody has different work, strenuous work activity or not. And so at the very least, start with a good liter and a half. I'd say that's really good for most people after like teenage years, 16, 17. And your blood is one of the river of your life, okay? So it is where most of your nutrients are transported around. If you eat something, it gets transported to your brain through your bloodstream. And when you breathe, the oxygen goes into your bloodstream and it gets to everywhere where it needs to go. And the blood is also where most of the things that your body needs to detox from your body, whether it's carbon dioxide or just the equivalent poop and pee of your cells, every single cell in your body has to go there. And then it gets sort of wrapped up in different places and excreted through your urine, your sweat, and your poop. And that's why it's so important to start with something that sounds so simple, but it's profound. Because if that river in your body is flowing nicely and not like this slow, muddy river thing, like or this torrent where you're like overhydrating yourself, and like that can kill you too, guys, just so you know. But like you gotta get that balance, and that will really make a big difference. And of course, the other thing I'd mention is make sure you're using things that are of good quality. It's really hard to find good quality feminine hygiene products these days. Even the organic stuff is not the best. So first of all, just find any way you can to use things that grab the blood without leaving much behind. So that's why I recommend today the most easy one is either to have some sort of organic pad that catches the blood. Sometimes there's underwear, or you have a Diva cup, because that's something that's made out of quite neutral material. And it depends if you're comfortable using it or not. Some people are, some people aren't. But like it's 100% worth it, because the things that they add to pads, especially just the regular stuff that doesn't have any certifications on it, like organic cotton, etc., that it's full of things that basically add to that over detoxified river system that we were talking about, right? You might as well not add more stuff that your body's dealing with. So remove it. And honestly, just from that, I've had big shift in PMS for many clients. So really like try this out if you haven't. It's really, really profound. And actually I'd love to also talk to you about one of my favorite nutritional sort of recommendations, because I wonder if you did this. And it's basically one of the things I start with most women is tell me how much protein you eat, and let's see if it's enough, actually. And if you're not getting enough, let's make sure you know how to do that. And let's find your right number, right, for yourself. And before we maybe get into it, did you by any chance make sure you're eating more protein?
Exactly. Yes. That was like the number one. That was the number one thing that I started to look at, was just like the protein intake and making sure I'm getting enough protein like with every meal. So starting at breakfast, lunch, even the snacks, like if I have a snack, like it's like a protein based, snack. So that was the first thing.
Man, what a coincidence. I think not.
But I think I love that, because these are like attainable tips that you're giving people. Like just even as saying is starting with like drinking water, right? Drinking a liter of water, because I think a lot of times, like I try to drink a gallon of water every day, but I know a lot of people, I try.
Okay, she said try.
Sometimes it's like, but at the most it's like 3 liters that like I'll drink. And that's just because it's like, I usually like after I work out, then I like drink water in the morning. And, then I don't know, I just like, it's at my desk all day when I'm working, and I just try to keep, it also helps like, like, oh, I'm not going and eating like useless things. I'm drinking water. Like, I don't know, water just makes me feel like it's like refreshing. But I know a lot of people struggle with drinking water because people don't like water. And so I think like, even just in you saying that, like, drink a liter of water, like that to me is obtainable. Like it's a very like, it's not big. Like it's like that between picking up like a gallon. A lot of people have those jugs from Amazon where it's like, oh, sorry. I mean, I have like a couple of those. I don't use them anymore. I'm just using like the liter bottles or whatever. But I mean, I just think like those are just very attainable things. And then eating more protein and just looking at the food that you take in, using an app to track it. If you, because I mean, I've got like the Lose app, like just get an app where you can track and see what is in your foods that you're eating to make sure you're getting the right protein.
Man, you just said so many good things. Well, I guess the only thing I just want to make sure you guys give me a second to make sure we're taking care of Kira here, because I have all the time. I get women who tell me, "Don't worry, I got water. I got it figured out. I drink a gallon at least." Like, and I'm like, okay, first of all, tell me, how many times do you go pee every day?
It just it varies. I mean, like, it varies, because like if I'm drinking a lot of water, then I'm probably peeing a lot. But I don't know. I don't think I've ever counted the number of times.
Fair enough. You're a normal person. I mean,
but I mean, I'm pretty sure it's probably more than 5.
Oh, that's good to know. So ideally, I recommend people get enough water so that they're peeing a maximum of 4 to 6 times a day. But it also matters like what's going on when you're peeing. And you guys, this might be new to you, because like Kira, you might be a regular person and not think about it when you go to the bathroom. But think about this next time. Like, how long is it that you pee? Is it like short? Is there not a lot? Is it clear? If it's all those things, then to me, it's telling me that what's happening to the water is that it's actually depleting your system of minerals. Because if the water, if you drink too much water, often it dilutes your system. And in order to get rid of the excess water, your body will have to dilute it with its own mineral storage to get rid of it. And that is really dangerous long term. And like, I know these trends are like really popular. Drink a gallon a day, and like it's I've seen it a lot. But just so you know, most of the benefits for drinking water comes from being adequately hydrated, because overhydration will deplete the minerals of your body over time. So You guys help me keep Kira healthy, and let's make sure she's drinking maybe 2 liters, okay?
Hey,
Keep her
I'm
accountable.
definitely fine with drinking 2 liters. I think sometimes you just think, because whenever you're like, the doctor's like, oh, you need to drink water, you need to make sure you're getting enough water. I'm definitely okay with drinking 2 liters of water. Okay. And yes, I do look at my pee. I do look. I like to see, like, I look back and go, make sure, what color is that? Is it clear today, or is it like yellow? Is it
right?
See, like, what does it look like? So no, I love this. I like these interactive discussions. So and I'm sure the audience listening, like, they know you're taking care of Kyra, but they're also being taken care of themselves as well. So I love that, because I think that's very helpful. Especially just even something like water intake. You hear so many people, like you say, you hear so many people who say, or like, you can Google things and it'll tell you, oh, you should be at this age or whatever, you should be drinking this amount of water.
Right,
So
right.
I can't wait to tell my husband, like, it's really 2 liters that I should be drinking.
I love that so much. Okay, good. We've taken care of her. You guys, everyone can breathe. I'm so glad I've got another nerd with me who likes to look at that stuff. I love it. That's great.
Yes. So
and you guys, maybe we should also mention, like, the color. So we've got super clear, and then we've got, so that's one end, super clear, and there's like no smell. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got like seriously dark and really smelly. And then you've got the spectrum all over the place. And you want to be somewhere in the middle. You want it to be like a golden hue. And the smell will change depending on how your detoxification system is doing, actually. So I wouldn't worry too much about the smell yet, but just look at the water.
Mine's usually a golden hue.
How much? Count a few seconds. Like, can you count a few seconds, maybe 5 when you're going? You know, is your bladder actually filling up and then you need to go? Or are you just like, is your body just desperately trying to get rid of?
No, mine's filled up. I go like when I have to go. Like, I'm not going anytime before that. It's always like I gotta sprint, because I'm like, oh God, I need to pee. And I'm more of a golden hue kind of girl.
Okay, I like this. Very good.
Who knew today I was gonna wake up and talk about peeing?
Oh my gosh. Poop and pee. My God, I can't believe how much I talk about it with people, but it's a thing. But maybe we should talk about
can I ask
protein.
One question? Can I ask one question before those of you, because you said poop. What's the appropriate amount of times one should poop?
Yeah. So at minimum, I'd say once a day. You get a banana out. That's basically like the shape. All right. If it's a little less together than the banana, that's totally a fair game. Not a problem. But once a day minimum, definitely. There can be problems with going too many times, but I've seen people super healthy going anywhere between once and twice a day. Sometimes even 3 times a day. But like, that's like once or twice is pretty darn great.
Yeah.
Start
like
with
1 to 2. I'm like a 1 to 2 kind of per day kind of girl.
There you go. Right on. Okay.
All right. Okay. So now we can talk about protein.
Oh, this was awesome. Okay. Now, we're just going to solve all Kira's problems today. But she's already done the protein part. So this is more for you guys listening. But no matter what anybody comes to me with, I swear it's the most important thing I usually start with people on is, let's find the optimal amount of protein for you to take every day. Yes, I don't mean like every single day for the rest of your life, like at least 5 out of 7 days. How many grams of protein would like be ideal for you to be eating? And this is like people who have infertility or miscarriage problems. This is for people with arthritis. This is for people who want to lose weight for the last time. It's the range of conditions that this helps is jaw-dropping. And I pinch myself how amazing it is. It helps so many things. So because of that, I just created a very, very simple guide on my website. And it just is just how you get your protein formula right. And it just gives you a protein formula if you think in pounds, if you think in kilograms. it'll show you what to do, and it'll show you how to count protein in your food as well, and how many things you need every single day. And it's completely free. isabellathor.com/protein dash formula. Like, super simple. It will always be free. It's just such an important part of people's health that you get it right. Okay, it's worth it. Now, let's just get into an example of something in the guide. For example, let's say that you think in pounds. So all you have to do is, if you think in pounds, is think, now, what is my ideal weight in pounds? Okay, great. And so a typical lady I usually see, she'll say something like, depending on her height, 130, 140. Like, okay, let's just go with 130. And then we just change that number, get rid of the pounds, change the units to grams of protein. Now you have it. Now you have your optimal, like, this is your target of protein every day to eat. And so for this lady, now it's 130 grams of protein every day. And then from there, what I recommend, divided in threes, I mean. So it's around 65 grams. A third of 130 grams is 65-ish grams. And make sure you get that, or I guess around 55. Make sure you get that in the morning. Start your day off strong. It can be daunting at first when you're tracking your protein and really trying to get it up there. But if you start your day with getting a third of it in, then you'll feel a lot better already. And for most people, getting that third in is usually more than they'd usually get before they started tracking for the whole day of a typical day in their life. So it's a big deal that if you even hit half of your goal or 3/4 of your goal, because most people are quite protein deficient. Now, as for I really recommend you also get comfortable using your hand to as a rule of thumb, how much protein is in this size of piece of meat or yogurt or cheese or whatever it is you eat. And I have that in the guide, just how do you use your hand gestures, measure, approximate. And then other people, they just like knowing exactly what's in it. And they measure their food and they go from there every day until they got a good idea of how much they're eating every day. And you guys, I can't stress enough how profound it is to see people's demeanor lift so much when they finally get enough protein in. I'm talking about within weeks, you usually see a huge mind and personality stabilization and energy, especially for women with the period stuff. That stuff is amazing. And then also there's a huge decrease in the pain for the period, the irregularity of the period, and so many other things. And so just watch carefully when you do this, because you will feel a difference, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, awesome. I love this. Okay, so my last question I'm going to ask you, because I feel like we talked about so many great things today, and I love that we were able to. Well, I love that we were able to touch on so many different areas of how you help people, which has been great. But I did want to ask you about the effects of using the over-the-counter drugs.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Okay, so we have pain medication over the counter that exists, and people take it for all sorts of things. Anything from back pain to headaches to, for us in our particular conversation, painful periods. It's so common because you, Kira, was I don't want to go anywhere for this entire week of my life every month. That sucks. So most women, they just end up popping the painkillers, and it's really sad because the long-term consequences are not, it's just nobody tells you about them. So let me be the one to give you the list, okay? You ready for this? Because this is so important, okay? And I've said this so many times, so just slow me down if there's too much. But yeah, this is important information. So I just want you to know, first of all, that taking painkillers is not harmless. Even though we use it for our cramps, our headaches, our body aches, they're really bad news. And I'm talking about most over-the-counter medications. The most commonly what I'll see is people develop things like leaky gut, creating food sensitivities, immune stimulation, also digestive distress in general. It's one of the very, very unknown consequences of taking painkillers, specifically NSAIDs. So NSAIDs are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. They're really, really, really only supposed to be used for emergencies, in my opinion, and not for these unusual chronic conditions. Now, long story short, when you have leaky gut and any sort of digestive distress, that stuff also affects the brain. Okay, so if you're dealing with fatigue or brain fog regularly or headaches, like it could be very much related to taking these painkillers. And so I just don't want you to mess with these drugs because, one of these days, NSAIDs will be treated like cigarettes. Okay, so don't take your chances and become that sort of statistic for future generations. Just know, and I teach this to all my clients, that pain is totally a signal from your body that there's something going on, right? And it needs your attention. And I'd say easily over the course of decades, women spend thousands of dollars just for these over-the-counter pills, and it's completely not necessary, okay? And now, also, I'd say that all of that is usually brushed over. It's technically like you can get the information if you Google it, but it's like not on the pill boxes at all. And I'd also like to say that there are a few other consequences too on the big picture of not dealing with your painful periods. Like Kira here, she was literally offered a hysterectomy. You guys, that's like, it could be like removing everything or like partial hysterectomy, removing parts of you. And it's just like, that's not how it goes. I want you guys to remember that most likely your body is perfectly formed and it's just struggling because it doesn't have enough resources to use its perfectly formed structures to do its job. A factory, even though we are not a factory, our body's way more dynamic than that. But a factory or a beautiful car cannot run if you don't give it the right fuel, right? It will look broken if you give it the wrong fuel, right? So just remember that you are probably not broken, okay? There's something else going on. And I know you don't want to lose time from work, and you want to take the painkillers right now because it's you really just, you need that income or something like that, right? But in the long term, I'm telling you that the surgeries that will be offered to you later, they are easily thousands of dollars each. And for what Kira did, for example, I typically, what I hear from people is that they're a few $1,000s, depending on what country you're in, anywhere from that up to like $10,000 or more. So just know that that is also what's going to be offered to you later on. And it's not right, like you cut things out and then you're completely fine and there's no consequences of it. There are actually hundreds of symptoms that we're just learning about now because we kind of just started this trend of cutting out the organs of women who are having these painful symptoms. Okay, so just know that. And I think off the top of my head, hysterectomy is like typical is $5,000 to $10,000 or more. And other costs that I believe are out there, for example, for something called PMDD or premenstrual dysphoria disorder. What that is basically PMS on steroids, like really, really harsh stuff. And the only stuff we have for that are just drugs. And, you know, they're a few $100s per year, depending on where you live. And honestly, most of them only you see short-term relief for like 3 months or so before you have to switch drugs again and start the cycle again. It's really rough, and that's not good. And I guess the only other thing I'd like to mention to you guys is, which is another big part of my practice, and I wish women were told this more often, and that is infertility is a huge consequence of ignoring painful periods, and miscarriages and that sort of thing. There's a big, like, if you ask the internet what sort of questions women ask for painful periods, it's like, am I more fertile if I have heavy, painful periods? That's the question, right? And it's like, no. The answer is no, even though we seem to think that's the case. And just imagine, I can't tell you how much money many of my clients have spent on infertility treatments before they come see me. It's thousands of dollars. And of course, if you find out later you're infertile or you've been offered a hysterectomy, like Kira, and you're like not even sure if you want to have kids or not, you can't put a dollar value on the choice, the opportunity to be able to have a family, right? So that's a huge life window, opportunity cost that many women don't know that they're playing with when they pop pills, or which is another huge topic. And I'll only say like a sentence on this, I think, because all of the things I mentioned too are deeply interwoven also with the consequences of taking hormonal birth control. It's really rough. And most of the things I mentioned only get worse if you take hormonal birth control and suppress that very important reproductive cycle within your body. So see, that was a lot, and you didn't even pause me. So I guess you were
it was
totally
good information. Yeah, it was great. Good. It was great information. I think people need to understand they have choices, and that they don't have to, like, you know, they can do things, they can do natural things that can help them before you ever even get to a place of where someone is offering to like cut on you or inject or do something to you. So I think like this has been great. I've loved all the information, all the tips. I wrote down a lot of things myself. So before we go to 3 things with Isabella, can you tell the audience again how they can connect to you?
Yeah, of course. Oh my goodness, I didn't even mention the most important part. Okay, so this is connected to how you can find me. I'm on IsabellaThor.com, but whenever I talk about periods, I want to just give people the entire guide to get there. And I swear what I'm about to share with you is just like everything I've ever learned that gets most women all the way to pain-free periods. And it's on my website. It will always be on my website for free. It's on isabellathor.com/painfree-periods. And just go for it. Follow the guide. It's everything I've learned from quite a few years of dealing with people and seeing what works and what doesn't. There's like 5 steps. You can do this. Come on. Now, that's basically where to find me too. If that guide, which it almost never happens, but if there's still something wrong, you know where to find me. I'm isabellathor.com. But again, for most people, that's all they need. And then you can enjoy your pain-free period life for like at least 30 years. You know, like that's a significant thing.
Yeah, for sure. No, we really appreciate that. We love that you give so freely of free tips to people. So thank you so much for sharing that. All right. So now I'm going to transition. I'm going to ask you 3 questions that helps the audience just get to know you a little bit better. Sure. The first question is a 2-parter. It's how do you start and end the day?
I start the day outside, trying to catch the sun rising. And I end the day kind of the same way too. I also always try to catch the sun, sunset. Also time with my husband and family. Like those are like my 2 biggest things. Yeah.
Awesome.
Maybe I
Right.
feed you.
The second question, if you, what's the goal or intention that you've set for yourself this year? And if you don't mind sharing, where are you with it?
And what was the last one?
A goal or an intention that you set for yourself this year. And if you don't mind sharing, like, where are you with that goal?
Oh, where are you with it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see. So, I
Sorry.
oh, is that the snoring dog? Okay. Um, let's see. I've started thinking about my intentions in terms of feelings quite recently, and I really love it so far. And I have these 6 words, and you know, and that's like how I want to feel throughout this year. Like these are the 6 things, and it's like some things on there are like I want to feel more in love. I want to feel dearly beloved, mind blown, orgasmic. That's one of my favorites. And just overall wealthy in every way. So
Mhm.
those are the things I'm really going for. And how is it going?
Yeah.
It's really cool to evaluate every week and like identify which part of your like where did those moments come into your life. And
Mhm.
I think that's how I'm evaluating it. So it's like
Mhm.
I'm getting better and better at identifying what sorts of things make me feel that way. And I love it. And yeah, it's
I
really,
like
really
it.
life-giving.
Awesome. I love that. And the last question, where are you currently finding inspiration?
Ooh, I'm finding inspiration in there's this one phrase I'm really doing my best to be better at. And it's this slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And I'm super type A and I want to get everything done yesterday, preferably last year. And and like that stuff is good for me, like that saying.
Mhm.
So yeah, I find it inspirational because um it forces me to learn how to slow down. And it's
Right.
way better living that way, guys. If you can, challenge yourself to
Yeah.
do that. And it
Yes.
inspires you too because you realize that you actually don't have to hustle as much as you think you do,
Yes.
or in my case, fill your calendar with that many clients as you think you do. Like you can bring
Yeah.
spaces into your life and not push yourself that much and actually see more growth.
Mhm.
So yeah, I leave you with that.
Awesome. I love that. All right. So before I let you go, first, I want to say thank you so much for all the insights and the nuggets today.
My
Lots has
pleasure.
been learned today from you, Isabella. But before I let you go, I'd like for you to leave the audience with 3 things that you'd like for them to take away from our conversation today.
Ooh, that's simple, you guys. Okay, so um, first of all, because I know you guys are probably mostly women or you have women in your life, if you want to lose weight, you can still do it, or release fat for slimming or fitness. You can still do it, but you gotta do it in a way that you still nourishes yourself. So, I teach people how to lose weight for the last time all the time, and for women in particular, start with the protein. It's one of the most important ways I keep people nourished is making sure they have enough protein. So keep that in mind if you're wanting to lose weight. Um, Never sacrifice your protein. Number 2, there's a vitamin A, D, and K recommendations that's profound for everybody I give it to. It's in my period guide. So just go there to get the exact numbers, but do it because vitamin D is like an honorary hormone in my field. Like it's so important to your health and it's not the same as the sun, guys. Just trust me on this. Just try it. You'll feel amazing, like incredibly better if you have the right dose. Okay, and then the last thing is it's something like just whatever you do to improve yourself. From everything I've learned, from every client I have helped, one thing has stood out above all else, and that is that the people that get the best results, they come to understand that ordinary things done consistently create extraordinary results. And you've got to have an accountability partner to keep you on that path because accountability is not for weak people, guys. Accountability is for people who are ready to like surrender to the process that works and not get distracted in 50,000 ways, and like stick to what they say they are and become the person who they dream of. And, you know, like and a lot of people, if they're single, you know, I work with a lot of people who are single, and like you got to be the dream person you want to date too, you know? So like all of it connects beautifully. So no matter what you want, your dreamiest health goal, become the person you want to, you want to be around. So I'd say those are the things I really want you guys to remember after this conversation. And oh yeah, bonus one, make sure Kira's taken care of. Make sure she's doing good.
Awesome.
Got the water thing, protein.
Got the water, got the protein. We're good. I think we got some notes. We're going to be good. Well, thank you so much, Isabella, for coming and spending time with the community today. Like I said, this was a really great conversation and lots of great tips.
Excellent. I love being here. Thanks so much, Kira.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.